Um, okay, cool. Um, okay, cool. Um, okay, cool. Sorry, can you guys mute? Okay. Okay. Are we good? Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Let's just give people a minute. Also, before we start. Hello, Abiodam. Hi, Boon. How's it?
How's it?
Cool, man. Yeah. So, guys, please make sure that you don't open LinkedIn or you mute. Otherwise, yeah, the sound is gonna keep on coming back. Please don't open YouTube. I'm talking to you guys, the speakers. Yeah. Cool. Let's see. I just want to double check that we are actually live. I'm assuming we are live on LinkedIn already. Oh yeah, we are. Let me just double check if we good also on YouTube. But yeah, I think I see some people are joining us, and some are great. Yeah, bless Dara. Greetings. Please, guys, just mention the country that you're coming from, just so I can see, which countries are representing today. I'm seeing Akinola Joseph, and I'm seeing Nehemiah Kof. So, yeah, guys, welcome to another session. And I have Mbumi and Opigang and Obiajulu. So I want you guys to introduce yourselves, briefly, tell us who you are, the country you're from, company you're working for, what you're doing, etc. So yeah, I'll start with you, Obigang.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Obakeng. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Obakeng, and I'm a UX designer, junior from Johannesburg. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Mbumi. Just a quick intro. Who you are, company from, country from, and your design title.
Hi everyone. What's up? Mpumi here. Mpumelelo Cindi in full. I head up UX at the Old Mutual Unlimited. Yeah, that's me. I'm in Joburg, South Africa.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I'm seeing Kasandi Mabunga from DRC Congo. I'm seeing Bless Dara from Cameroon. I'm seeing Abiodun Ayobambi from Nigeria. I'm seeing Babalo, based in the UK in London. I'm seeing some few people. Also Nehemiah from Ivory Coast. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, I will definitely share your highs, but I want us to get started. So yeah, today we've got another awesome topic that I want us to talk about, user adoption funnel by Obiajulu Anayo. So please, Obi, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, which country you're from, and also you can fire your slides from your side.
Okay, hello everyone. It's really, really great to be here. All right. So yeah, my name is Anayo Obi, and I'm a senior product designer. I've been in the business of design for over 3 years now, officially, right? And I've been helping businesses to solve problems using design, right? And it's been an exciting journey so far. Aside from helping businesses solve problems, I'm somebody that is, fully and really big on community building. I'm very involved in design communities like Pexels, and it's a design community that we have here in Nigeria. And
Nice.
I've been able to mentor several designers, a whole lot of designers who are now doing well today, right? So aside from being a senior product designer at Network, a product development company, I'm also a UX design consultant at CodePart in San Francisco. And aside from that, I'm also a founder and co-founder of a startup, Move Better, and a couple of other startups that I'm building. So aside from just design, for me, design is more like the beginning of what I want to do from design, being a product designer, then I become like a founder and be able to have my startup, and which I already have. We're just looking to raise funds and all of that. You know how it is in the market. All right. So so that is about me. I enjoy designing a lot. I enjoy, products. I enjoy talking about products. I mean, when it comes to talking about products and tech and the startup ecosystem, I could talk for days, right? So it's really, really exciting to be here, and I'm glad we're here today.
Yeah, no, sure. Thanks a lot, man. Actually, I would love us, to also talk about, the amazing work that you're doing. I want to hear about the African startups, so that, we can get inspiration, from Africa.
Okay.
So yeah, next time.
I hope it's on my network.
No, I can hear you. I can hear and see you. I think it's good.
I just hope for it.
Give him a
It's
second.
been okay. This is one of the things we're talking about. Like, we need tech startups to go into to avoid things like this. Okay.
But Mr. Anayo, are you able to load your slides?
Yeah,
No,
sure,
no.
sure.
Okay.
You back?
Yeah. Please continue, guys. I think I had just a brief interruption with my internet. Thank you.
Okay. So do you want to continue, or do I, get on with the slides and presentation?
No, please, continue. Start with your presentation.
Okay. All right. So let me just get on to the business of today. Right. So we're going to be talking about the user adoption funnel, and so like I said before, my name is Anayo Obi, and some people call me Obi Ajulu, but I prefer people to call me Obi. Right. It's really easy to pronounce. Right. So I've been in the business of assisting startups, organizations, and corporations that address challenges via design. And I have experience working across 4 continents, and I'm now concentrating on developing innovative solutions for the African market. Right. So most of the time you'll find me talking about building products that solve problems for the African market. Right. And currently I'm doing that as a co-founder in Move Better. I'm also building a solution that has to do with cross-border transfers. BoofX, we're launching next month, basically receiving money. We provide people with foreign virtual accounts in USD, in pounds, and also in euros, right, alongside other solutions that we're trying to build. So we should be able to launch next month. We're currently fundraising at the moment. And I'm also building another solution, right, Sana, that has to do with art. So I'm more of like a serial founder, and I'm trying to, just build innovative solutions to the for the African market, trying to solve problems in the African ecosystem. So when it comes to things product marketing, be able to adopt your product, for them to be able to get used to your product, and for you as a company to be able to make revenue by virtue of users adopting your product. It's a collaborative effort between management, between design, and also engineering, and also the stakeholders, right? And one of the things that I'm also a product, right? I'm also a product manager too, aside from being a senior product designer. I kind of, do a whole lot of things. And let's get into the business of the day, right? So getting new customers to actually use your product or your service regularly after they've signed up is a big challenge, right? I know many of us right here, we work for startups. I wish I could, see the chat simultaneously with seeing my screen, right? So just, get a brief of, I believe a lot of us work in startups. How many of us work in startups? You can just, type in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever we're joining from, right? Type in the comment section. If you're working in a startup, right, especially early stage startups, getting new customers to actually use your product after they've signed up is actually a big challenge, right? And this is something that takes a collaborative effort between product design, between the product team, engineering team, and also marketing team, right? You need to be able to develop strategies that would allow users to actually adopt your product. And you know that once your product is being adopted by users, definitely it turns into revenue, because they start taking out actions, and they start carrying out actions that would make the business make money. So this is actually a very big challenge. And this drives me to what is user adoption. So basically, user adoption is really simple. It's the process of getting the user to know your product, adopting your product in order to achieve a long-term goal, right? So I know right now, a lot of us, we've actually adopted the use of Figma, for example, for design and stuff like that. We've heard about the products, we heard about maybe a friend or something.
Are you going to share your screen?
I don't know, I'm sharing my screen. Seriously?
No, you're not sharing.
I was thinking I was sharing my screen. It's actually on share. Wow, interesting. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen then. Okay, so yeah. So what is user adoption? So basically, like, user adoption is the process of, of getting the user to know your product, adopting your product, and in order to achieve a long-term goal. Like I was saying, right, we have all adopted Figma. I wouldn't say we all, but most of us have adopted the use of Figma for design. Companies have adopted the use, and we want to use it to, build the entirety of things around our branding, our design systems, and all of that, right? A lot of us in different parts of the country, like for product management, a lot of people have adopted the use of products like ClickUp, products like Jira, products like Asana, and all of that, right? So for quick communication, especially here in Nigeria and many other parts of Africa, a lot of people have adopted the use of WhatsApp, right? So the process of user adoption actually takes time, and it is different for different kinds of product, right? But basically, user adoption is generally like getting the user to know your product, getting the user to also adopt the use of your product in order to achieve a long-term goal. Now, so we're going to talk about the user adoption funnel. So sometimes there's a little bit difference between the user adoption funnel and the feature adoption funnel, but they're basically on the same line. So we're going to look at how to track and measure feature adoption or user adoption by Justin Boutilon, right? So let's get into the business. So this is the user adoption funnel. The first part of the funnel. So when we're talking about, I believe everybody knows what a funnel is, right? Everybody knows what a funnel. I shouldn't be explaining that, right? So basically, in this funnel, right, we have the exposure stage, or what some people call the expose stage. We have activation, we have used, and then used again, right? So what do we mean by the stage of the exposure stage? Now, so this expose stage or the exposure stage is where we have to, as a business, as a product manager, as a user experience researcher, you have to be able to identify the users who are exposed to your feature, right? So, and this can be in different ways, right? So, if it's when we're talking about a product, right? A user might be exposed to your product via just a Google ad showing up on his or her phone. He might have watched an ad on TV. He might have overheard an ad on radio, right? So these guys are exposed to your feature. They're exposed to your product, right? They already have heard something about your product. There are a couple of products I've heard about. I've been exposed to, for example, it's just this week I got to sign up on ClickUp. I've been hearing about ClickUp for over 3 years now, right? There is a particular advert they do on YouTube. It says, "Hi, Mike. Mike is a designer," or something like that. I'm sure you guys might be familiar with the ad, right? So I've been exposed to that particular advert, but I've never downloaded it before. But I know about ClickUp, I've heard about it, right? But I've never taken the action. I've seen a lot of ads, I've heard about it here and there, but I've never been able to take the action to, okay, let me download this product or let me adopt this particular product, right? So the expose stage is where users they've heard about your feature, they've been exposed to your feature, they've probably seen it during maybe ads during the World Cup somewhere, or during a reality TV show or things like that, right? That is for being exposed. That is for the product, right? But if it's a feature, right? A feature, you already have an existing product, right? You already have an existing product, and then you launch a feature, right? So you probably tell the users that, okay, this particular feature is available, right? For example, Figma launched a couple of new features on FigJam, as well as a couple of new features, actually the video. Now you can embed videos in your prototypes and play it back. So a lot of people have been exposed to that feature. For example, personally, I've been exposed to the feature, but I've never used it. I've not tried it out, even maybe because I've not had the need to try it out, but I'm exposed to that feature already, right?
Yeah, I've been using it. I think the day it came out, because I used to download like videos on YouTube and then convert GIFs and then embed.
And embed it on Figma so you can.
Yeah. So when that thing came, I was like, oh. We're actually like talking about it in our design team. I just want to say hi, Catherine.
Hi there.
Yeah, Kath. You can just say hi to the other guests that are here.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. My name's Kath. I am a physiotherapist, but I'm trying to get into UX research. So keen to have a listen to what you guys have got to say today. And thank you for putting time into doing this.
Good to have you, Kath.
So thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So guys, please, just drop your questions, in the comments via YouTube or via LinkedIn, whichever platform you're using, and I will display the questions so that we can, attend to them. And so we can pause at any stage. We'll probably have a bit of time to address a lot of the questions and to further the discussion. Sure.
Okay, so can I go on?
Yes. Yeah. When I say sure, like
I think we said it simultaneously,
Sure. Cool.
Okay, yeah. So talking about like the exposure stage or the exposed stage, right? There is a particular product that we use in Nigeria for savings. It's called Cowrywise, right? And then it's one of the best designed products that I've ever seen. You can check them out. Really, really awesome design, branding from the messaging and everything, right? So they launched a particular feature recently. They called it triggers. So basically, what that feature allows you is what that feature does is that you can set a trigger to save, and there are two ways this feature works. You can either set a trigger on tweets on your tweet. So anytime you tweet, you tweet on Twitter, right? You get to save the particular amounts that you set, right? So that particular feature, I look at it. Okay, so I need to reduce my tweets if I start adopting the use of this feature, I think I would need to reduce my tweets, right? Or maybe or maybe I'm someone that tweets a lot, right? As I tweet more, I get to increase the amount of money that I get to save, right? And also they have something like for anytime your favorite team, say you support Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, or Mamelodi Sundowns, or any of those teams, right, that you support, anytime they score a goal, you get to save money, right? So the more goals your team scores, the more. So that is a feature that I've been exposed to, right? But I've not used that particular feature. So that is basically what exposure is all about. And sometimes it might be difficult for you to measure exposure, right? Especially when it comes to products, right? Not just features, right? It might be very difficult for you to measure exposure. And this is where you get to collaborate with your marketing team. You get to collaborate with your product team. You use the analytics tool and all of that. So, for example, right, you might be walking down the street or you might be driving on the highway and you see a billboard, and the billboard is very big, it's well positioned, and then there is a very big advert that shows about your product, right? This users are already exposed to your product that way, right? They are seeing it, they're seeing what the benefit of the product is or whatever the copy on that particular advert is, right? There was a particular new brand in Nigeria that came out. They were trying to rebrand, right, from Kudi to Number, right? And all over Lagos, the city of Lagos, everywhere, their billboards were all over the place. So a lot of users were exposed to their products, right, via billboards. So now it might be difficult to measure the number of users that are exposed to your product, especially when it's something via a billboard. You don't know if I just looked at your product, and you can't really measure that, right? It's not so easy, especially when it comes to digital focused product, right? So, but there are different ways you can measure exposure. We already know if you run an advert, you already know the impressions for that particular ad. Impressions will tell you how many users have been exposed to the feature, right? You have things like Google Analytics, you know how many users have clicked on it. If you run Google Ads and all that, you can know how many users. If you have emails, you send emails, you know how many users have opened those emails. There are lots of products like that can enable you track your email campaigns and all of that, right? So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just before you move, I'm seeing a question from Bless Dara saying, I don't think I fully understand the question, but I'm going to read it anyway. Before deploying your first market app, have you confirmed already through research if there is a need, or are you using that to test and then fine tune as you move?
I didn't really get the question.
Yeah, so it's fine. I'll display it here. I'm going to ask Bless Dara, can you please try to rephrase your question? And then we'll come back to it. Thanks. Yeah, you can move on to the next to stage 2. Or sorry, to the next slide.
Okay, so basically in the expose stage, the users do not have knowledge about your product features at this level, right? And when in the expose stage, you need to make your onboarding tours. So if you're doing a video, right, or you're running an advert, you need to make sure that you tell users how to use this product. It's really easy to sign up on this product, right? Maybe your advert, tell them sign up with your email, do this and do that. Sign up in 3 simple steps, right? You need to also keep in mind that users are impatient, especially inexperienced users that have not really adopted the use of technology. They are really impatient, and that your 8-step onboarding process would really brown them off, especially when it's a B2C product, right? You need to be able to reduce onboarding friction, and in the expose stage, you need to collect feedback and iterate, right? collect feedback from your users, and then iterate your product. So the next stage is activation, right? So activation is a word that is very common amongst product marketers, right? So if you're working in a product marketing team, you hear about, okay, how many users have we activated? Or you're working in a growth team, right? Right, you're working in a team that has to do with growth, a growth team. So activation refers to the key moments a user performs the key actions or activation points in your product that allows them to experience the unique value proposition of your product, right? And so activation is in different. Activation is different for different businesses. For example, what Meta refers to as activated users might be different from what Apple refers to their activated users, right? Those the parameters they use to define the activated users might be quite different from other companies, right? And it differs between user segments, personas, and all of that, right? So it's very important for you to be able to define for your startup what is an activated user, right? So there was a particular startup that I and one of my friends worked on, and the platform has about 10,000 schools across Nigeria, Ghana. So it's basically a platform, EduSchool. It's basically a platform that allows parents to find schools for their children, right? That's basically like the unique value. It's like an education marketplace. Whatever school you want to find for your kid, just go there, right? And so while working in that startup, right, for them to activate a parent.
Sorry, Obiajo, is the noise coming from your side? Oh, there's a bit of noise.
What noise? Is it better now?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask everyone, all the guests, just to mute yourselves and unmute when you need to speak. Yeah, please continue, because I wasn't sure if it's you or if it's someone, but
Okay.
Could you guys hear it, or was it just me?
I didn't pick anything up.
I think it's just you here. I wasn't hearing anything on my side.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, no, thanks.
All right, great. So in that particular startup, right, what we define as activated users, right, especially for the schools, were schools that we have told about our product, right, and we've gotten them to complete their sign-up process. So we refer to them as activated users. These users, we've actually, gotten them to sign up, or we've signed up for them on their behalf, because some of them might be very busy. Some of those schools, the principals and all of that, right, they might be really busy and they don't have so much time. So we refer to them as activated users, right? So in different startups, what you define as your activated users might be different, right? There's a particular product that I worked on, and what they define as their active users or activated, what they define as the activated users is a user that has signed up on the product, that has completed the onboarding, right, and has carried out a transaction, which is a financial transaction, at least carried out one financial transaction in the last 15 days, right? That is what they refer to as their activated users, right? So in different kinds of product, they have different parameters. So that's why sometimes activation might be quite difficult to measure, right? So but there are some things that you need to consider and do on activation of your users, right? So you need to be able to understand how long your users were exposed to your feature or your product, right? And also, if they're exposed to a feature, did they enable that feature, right? Lots of products have different features here and there, but how long were they exposed to it, and did they actually enable that feature, right? And also, how many times does the user have to be exposed to that feature or that product before they activate it, right? Because there are times that, there's a particular product in Nigeria, like that a lot of us use. It's called Kuda Bank. It's called the Bank of the Free. So it's more like a product that has to do with digital banking. And before I got to use the product, I was exposed to it a whole lot of time. Like their ads were just everywhere in my face. Like, what are these guys? Like, so we actually even made a joke about it that, you could just open your refrigerator and then see Kuda inside, like Kuda Bank. That was how it was, just everywhere, right? The ads, I scrolled on Facebook, on Twitter, like before I see the ad. So how many times do your user have to be exposed to that feature before they activate that feature, right? And also how many times they have to be exposed to your product in this case, right? So one of the ways what you can do to improve activation is through email alerts, right? A couple of businesses send email alerts, which is really good, right? Just to remind you of their product offerings and all of that, and also push notifications. So especially on the mobile device, right? If you, for example, today I've gotten a number of push notifications on some of the food delivery and the food ordering apps that I use. I've gotten a couple of push notifications that, okay, today is Thursday. We have this and this ready. Order it from one of our stores. Blah blah blah. That's the way of trying. They're trying to activate me to get to use that feature, get to me to order food even when I have food in my house, right? So yeah, that's it.
So Abiajulu, I think I've like reread this question a few times. I was hoping that Blessed Dara will elaborate, but I think what he's asking for is, at which point do you actually look at user adoption funnel in terms of like preparing for it? Is it before?
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. So I'm saying I'm reading Bless Dara's question, and that says, before deploying your first market app, have you confirmed already through research if there is a need, or if are you using that to test and then fine tune as you move? So I think is asking do you concern yourself with user adoption funnel when you are doing your research? That means your UX research, and you'll get your insights. You'll design, test your start, test the app, get it developed and launch it, right? So I think he's asking at which stage do you actually do this?
User adoption, right? So during your
there's the preparation, right? Because the couple of things, because you can't actually execute on it until there's something live, right? I think there are two. So there are two aspects to this question, right? There is what do you do before you launch, and then there is what do you do once you've launched.
After you launch.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you can do before you launch, right? Especially when it comes to building products, right? What you can do before you launch, you can basically do prior to launch, do a lot of research, right? Gather as much data as possible, and if you cannot do it's still based on research, right? If you cannot do primary research, you do your secondary research, look at existing products. Because, for example, in Nigeria, right, let's say, for example, the fintech market, we have like the fintech market is worth, let's say, about $40 billion, right? It's more than that, right? So, and a lot of, if the market's already validated, right? And we know the different section of this market. So a couple of people might decide, okay, we know that there is an existing market in this space. Let's just play into this space without doing so much research, right? It could go very good sometimes, and it could go really bad, right? So, but however, you must do research. It might be primary research. It might be, different kinds of research. So that is what you do prior to that, and also do a lot of usability testing, right? So by the time you've designed your product and you are trying to push to engineering, do a lot of usability tests. And even when engineering has worked on the product, you can put the product in beta stage, right? What we call beta testing, right? You use that to collect feedback from a lot of users, then, make minor iterations here and there, and then, before you push live, right? That is what to do. But then when you're live in the market, right? That's when the real stuff comes in, right? When users are actually getting to use your product, you are seeing a lot of complaints here and there. Yeah, they're logging tickets on Jira, and you're actually seeing. So when you are launched the product, that is when you are majorly concerned with user adoption. What do users generally perceive of your product, right? You might think that this is what users perceive. In fact, you might think sometimes that this is the main feature on this product that would sell. And then you realize in the market that no, this is not the main feature. Users are actually using another feature more than the one you think that users will adopt, right? So, and sometimes it might even the market, you might run your product for maybe first 3 months, and you might have to pivot, right? So, but basically before your product launches, do a lot of research and usability tests. When they launch, you can put your product in beta, and when you move live, then you can now consider like different stages of the user adoption funnel. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Mbomi, do you want to jump in? I want to just add a few words.
Yeah, sure. Feel free.
Yeah. So I think, so this is a good question, especially for designers, right? Because we tend to leave some of these questions, to the marketing team. And I think it's very important for us to be intentional about, how do we attract our customers, and think about that end-to-end experience. And often designers will just design a journey and hope for the best, right? So how do we get someone who's busy going on with their day, and maybe they're probably having, I don't know, they're shopping at the mall, right? How do we catch them? How do we expose our solution to them, right? Whether digitally or via physical presence. And also thinking about how to tie in that experience. That's why a lot of companies, you see, the use of the QR codes, right, embedded, in a magazine or in a pamphlet, etc., right? And with an attempt to to attract and to transition the eyeballs from a physical pamphlet into a digital space. And also like more of the digital solutions that are coming out now in the marketing space, where some billboards can even like monitor like traffic, and because we want to know the numbers, right? If you talk about analytics, right? So there's already like an opportunity in that space. And I think we just need to stretch ourselves a bit, and this is something that we could definitely like do, right? Even as part of research, and understanding where is the best place where we could actually expose our product or feature. And also, even it's not just even about marketing, the outside of the design ecosystem, because even within your app, right, you need to be able to think about suggestible moments where you can elevate your feature, right? Maybe it could be a next best action, right, at the end of a particular journey, or it could be a nudge that you can display like on your app, or it could be like in a form of like notification, or it could be in a form of an email or an SMS, etc. Yeah, but anyways, let me pause a bit. I see that there's another question, from Henry Kawa. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. How many is too much alerts and notifications to send out to users so that they don't feel bothered about the app? I personally read 1% of email alerts and push notifications from most apps.
How many is too much? So I can't really give an exact answer to how many is too much, right? And for you to get, and it also would differ based on different products, right? You notice, like, for example, Figma doesn't really send much emails or notifications, but if you're using a fintech product, most of the time they might, especially here in Nigeria, they get to push notifications to you and then push email alerts, right? Maybe twice in a week sometimes, or maybe like 3 times or 4 times in a month, at least once in a week most times, right? So it's actually relative, right? We can't really put a number to it, and even if you're going to put a number to it, it's going to differ based on the kind of product, whether it's a B2C product, a B2B, or a B2C product, right? So
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, there are strategies that we can employ to reduce the numbers, and I think being intentional about what messages are critical, and at which point do you really have to push them, right? So that if someone knows, okay, if I notice that I get too many like emails from a particular brand, it's easy to ignore. But if you get like an email once in a while, or SMS once in a while, then you might think, okay, this must be like important, right? I think also for us to understand as designers that, that customer, has got too many apps on their phone, and we shouldn't just think about our own notifications that we send as a brand, but also to think about from their lens that they're actually exposed to so many other brands, banking, grocery delivery apps and other social media apps, etc. Right? But yeah, anyways, no thanks.
And I'd just like to add, it's just mind opening to see that the user experience like transcends the product. It's everything around the product, the notifications, the exposure, the activation process, just like user adoption and everything outside of the product is a part of the user experience. And I feel as designers, we should take cognizance of that and also be intentional about designing everything outside of the product. So that's what I wanted to say.
Sure. No, thanks, Obakeng. Yeah. No, Obiajulu, please continue to your next slide. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for those additions, right? So the touch stage is the use stage. And in this stage, you want to know how many of the activated users are actually using your product, right? I know you've activated a number of users. So now how many activated users are actually using your product in this stage? Now, in this stage too, it comes a little bit dicey, right? But not really dicey in that sense, right? You have to be able to measure what who your active users are, not activated users. There's a little bit of difference between activated users and active users this time around now. So who are your active users, right? There are some kinds of product that people do not get to use every time. For example, when it comes to logistics and delivery product, like product has to do with, moving an item from one place to another, right? So active users of the logistic products, they might say, based on their own research and analytics, they might say that an active user on maybe let me use an example on quick delivery, right? An active user on quick delivery is a user that has carried out a dispatch order in the last 30 days, right? So in Figma, right, an active user might be a user that has opened a new Figma file in the last 3 days, right? So that might be what Figma defines who an active user is. If it's when it comes to fintech product, an active user might be a user that has carried out a financial transaction, either a funding wallet or maybe sending money to somebody or a withdrawal, right, in the last let's say 2 days or 3 days, right? So for different products, they must be able to define who an active user is, and it's usually a collaboration between your product team, and also your stakeholders, and just generally like collaboration between everybody to understand who an active user is, right? Because if you're not able to define who an active user is on your product, you're going to have like very big problems when it comes to this particular stage of the user adoption funnel, right? So the last stage is what we call the used again, right? So at this stage, you identify the users who use your feature frequently, right? Or who use your product frequently in this case, right? So and then product analytics will make it easier for you to determine like how many users actually use this feature and users who have not been active for a while. So then you can now draw out plans to engage your users, right? So there are times that uses like a product frequently, and then they are carrying out financial transactions, or they are making requests, they are tweeting, or maybe it's a social media product, right? Or they are engaging on your product, and then there's this bit of recline, right? And then they come back again. So you must be able to have like analytics and parameters and data to be able to determine that, okay, these are the active users of my product and these are not active users. Then you find a way. So there are some product that, okay, for users who are not active, right, they might push a notification to them or send them an email alert that get so and so discount if you've not logged into your product for the last 30 days or something like that, right? So there are different parameters to be able to define that. So 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 that's the last stage of the adoption funnel, right? So right about now, we're going to be moving into the KPIs to measure user adoption. Like, so what are the KPIs? So if you're a product manager here, or you're a designer, you're a senior designer, or user experience researcher, right? You should understand what the KPIs are for, what the KPIs for user adoption is, right? So one of the KPIs for is your product adoption rate. So what is the rate at which users adopt your product, right?
Yeah.
Another KPI is what.
Sorry, Abiajuli, I was trying to find the right moment to pause you there. There's another question from Uthman Osua Lale. I hope I did justice to your name. How can a product designer be involved who in the user activation process when this is officially the work of a product marketer?
Okay, so basically, right, when building product is a collaborative effort, right? And that is why most companies, right, have the product team, right? Right. The product team is a team full of, designers, illustrators, brand designers, and all of that. So you have a product team and you guys are working hand in hand to achieve a goal, right? For example, as when a product designer is designing a product, and it's okay, let me say user experience design now, designing a product is talking about, is designing a particular flow, and then the flow is, and when he designs the flow and then it's shipped into production and they get feedback that this onboarding process is too long, or they need to cut out some process, right? And then they look at the process that they have a sync with the stakeholders or the product managers, and look at key areas that can be left out so they don't fall out on compliance, because compliance is another thing when it comes to startups, right? So from there, they can be able to improve the process and all of that. This is like a collaborative effort. So as a designer, it's not just something for marketing. You have to be in sync. The brand designers, when it comes to the brand message, in fact, so the UX copies, right? One of the things that is even key in your user adoption is some of your UX copies, right? As a designer, you don't just if you're working with a UX writer on your products, right? The UX writer, you have to collaborate with the UX writer to be able to write copies that can convert, copies that can adopt the user on that product, right? Copies that can activate the user, right? So this is a collaborative effort, right? You don't just design and just move your screens and then that's all, because design is a lot broader, much more broader than that. And you can put
Mr.
skin touch.
Obi,
Okay, go on.
I just want to ask, I think the question is asking about, a certain customer success team. So basically, the designers focus on the product. So is there not some customer success team like filled with marketers who specifically specialize in activation and exposure? So is there no like customer success team with marketers, product marketers, and who are the ones specializing in user adoption? Or is that solely the task of designers as well?
Yeah, so I think the question is fine. So I mean, the question can be rephrased, but I think Obiajuli is responding to it correctly. And once it's done, I'd love to add some few words.
No, you can just go on from there.
So I also saw Mpumi smiling when I was looking at this, right? So here's the thing, right? As a designer, I care about customers using what I've designed. And I would hope that, I work with designers who care that the customers will use the solution that we've designed. Like, never mind who's out there. Like, I don't care how big or small your company is, right? And yes, we have overlapping roles. We've got overlapping interests, right? Just like if you look at someone who's in the marketing department, they care about the customers. They get to know about the customers. That's like someone who's working in a social media, space, social media manager, etc. Right? They care about the customer. They care about servicing the customer, right, in the best way possible. Just like we care about designing or crafting an ideal experience that will help a customer to achieve their goal, with delight, right? And so it's very important, like, for us to understand that we have overlapping interests, and that doesn't mean we should relax and be like, nah, it's not my job, it's someone else's responsibility, right? So the question is, like, how do you find ways to collaborate and work together, right? And if we've defined a persona and we have the solution, and just like with the marketer, right? If you were to say, guys, hey, this is the work that we've done from our research, this would help you, right? Actually, hey, this is how we should market this product, right? Because you also have a good understanding of your customer segment, right? So as a designer, you can contribute and say, from an omnichannel experience perspective, these journeys are not aligned. What the customer sees, the image that you've put on Instagram, or the video that you've created, or the GIF that you've created, has got a disconnect between what I have on my platform. When the customer clicks from Twitter into my website, we made a promise by saying X, we need to keep that promise, right? And we need to, if there's a disconnect, we should care. Otherwise, the marketing person as well could just say, okay, sharp, I've done my job. I've made a promise called Y on Facebook, Twitter, or Spotify. Once that customer lands on the platform, then, because the customers, they don't care, they expect, like all of us, to work as a team, right? To produce that, like, harmonious experience. Anyways, let me pause.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding to that, right? So it's more of like a collaborative effort between, the designers. In fact, it's even on the engineering side, right? Something as a simple bug can make users drop off on your product. It can increase your churn rate, right? You might have designed the perfect product, right? But something as simple as just one bug can make users not get activated on your product, right? So yeah. So let me just continue. When it comes to KPIs for user adoption, another KPI for user adoption is your daily or monthly active users, right? So these are some of the things you really need to check. Right, you need to be able to check how many users visit use your product daily, or how many users visit your website on a daily basis. How many of them are taking actions, and the average time spent with your product, right? So average time spent with your product is something that is really interesting. And there are a couple of tools that you can use for that. Tools like Google Analytics does that. Tools like Hotjar even shows you like a heat map of the areas on your product where users are clicking on the most, right? So you see the average time spent on your product. You also see where users are actually clicking on more via the heat map, right? The use frequency, what's the frequency of usage? How many times do they get to carry out transactions? How many times they get to open your app? How many times do they get to? So these are some of the things that you really need to be measuring as a product designer.
Kath, I'm going to ask you just to kindly share the comments that you've shared amongst the guests. I think there's something important that you've shared there. You can just take a few seconds.
Okay, this was just in response to the question about the marketing team. And just sort of what I picked up from what Mpumi was saying is that as a designer, you obviously know the smaller intricacies of what your app is capable of doing. And those are things that sometimes the marketing team might not know about. So working closely in conjunction with them would be really important to make sure that those things get highlighted in their marketing campaign. So the marketers can't just be given an app and told, okay, go market it. They're going to need to know a little bit about the background of what the purpose of it is, and perhaps some of the like unique features that it has compared to others in the competitive marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was,
I agree
that
with
was
that.
my 2 cents worth.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I agree with that, and I think on the flip side is that we're only good as designers if the ultimate outcome of of people adopting and using the thing is realized, right?
Mm.
So even if you can be the biggest, the best design, if Steve Jobs didn't sell those iPhones, if those iPhones didn't sell, he wouldn't have the credit that he has today, right?
True.
And that's ultimately it. That means that he contributed quite significantly, and we all know he contributed quite significantly to marketing those products, right?
Mhm.
As somebody who was integral in the design process. So I think using our skill and what we know, like Putumi said, about
Yeah.
either the market or about the users, and about what's most important. So let's say there's 10 features in the platform holistically, but we know the feature that's most important to the user, for instance, based on our research and our testing. We may have to give that input. We may give that input into the marketing department, right? Into the people that are sending out those notifications and stuff to say, hey, this needs to be the headline feature because this is what users need the most. This is what they're raving on the most in terms of pain points, etc. So I just wanted to add to that piece.
Thanks.
So designers need to be more and more involved in contributing to the marketing of the products they're involved in.
Yeah. So another question for you, Abiajul. I know we're almost out of time, but we'll just spend an extra 5 minutes. At what this is a question from Henry Kawa. At what stage would you consider one an active user? After initiating or finishing a certain workflow, or just opening the app on a daily without actually using it?
Okay, so initially I said that different businesses would have different, definition of who an active user is, right? So, for example, an active user in Figma, like Figma is a product, right? Or maybe Adobe now,
Yeah.
right? In Figma, basically, right? An active user in Figma, they can define an active user as somebody who opens a design file or creates a new design file, or not even create a new design file. Let me say somebody who opens the application or opens a file. Now, let me put it up. Opens a design file, either Figma or FigJam, in the last 3 days. That might be what they define as an active user, right? On a fintech product that has to do with a lot of financial transactions here and there, they might define an active user as a user who uses any of the features, either send money, to receive money, to create payment links, or carry out a withdrawal or whatever. Like in the last, because a lot of people do financial transaction every time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so in the last, they can say they want this 24 hours. That is an active user, right? And if you don't do that, if you don't do any of that in 24 hours, that means you're not an active. I'm just giving an example,
Sure.
right?
Thanks. Yeah.
So it's just an
I think
example, right?
Biagio, you've answered that. I want to also display another one. Does used mean returning user, since activation is the user that has signed up and used the product? That's a question from James David.
Okay, so for activation means that the user has performed. Those are the key moments where the user can actually experience your value proposition, what your key value propositions are on the product, and that is activation, right? For the use stage, right, this user, they've already been activated, they've experienced what your key value proposition is already, right? This time around, they are now you're now getting to use your product for the first time, right? They're getting to use your product, trying to carry out something here and there. Okay, I think we're running out of time, so
That's fine. Let me display. That's fine. I just want us to push for an extra few minutes. Martin Chege, meaning that measuring active user is a factor of number of interaction over a certain period of time or changes with the product.
Yeah, so it can change with your active users, like can change based on what your business goals are. Your business goals can change swiftly, and you guys, the product team and the marketing team and the stakeholders might need to redefine who an active user is, right? And sometimes in some more startups that are very complex, more complex startups where they have different kinds of products, active user can even be defined based on different persona segments or different user segments. So different startups are, they have in more complex startups, they have different product offerings. For example, Stripe, on each of Stripe's products, they might have different parameters, for who an active user is, right? So depending on, how it is on that end.
Sure. Thanks. Mpumi, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, man. I think the ultimate answer to this, and this is what I'm getting from your presentation also, Obi, is that it depends. Like, it depends on which industry you're in, what type of users are. But I mean, I've been in banking and now I'm in insurance. In banking, I think an active user was somebody who logs on and probably who logs on within the last 30 days. I think it was something like that. That's an active user. So if you log into the system, into internet banking, maybe view a balance or whatever, they consider you an active user if you've done it within the last 30 days. So Figma, you said 3 days in Figma, right?
I'm not a part of Figma's product.
Yeah, but yeah.
And in insurance, there isn't really a benchmark. So I think the one that Old Mutual uses right now is if you've come in and you've done you logged in, and if you've done a transaction on the platform within the last 90 days, right? Because we're an insurance company, right? You don't come in and check your product. Exactly. So an active user for us is somebody who's carried out a transaction within the last 90 days. Right. So it depends. Yeah, it depends. Yeah. You need to find something that just works, and we'll probably change it, next year or when other things come onto the platform. But yeah.
Yeah, you might change it depending on, maybe you want to hit small targets and, you might change what an active user is and reduce it to 60 days for you guys and everybody's on their phone.
Yeah. I think there must be meaning, behind it, right?
Yeah,
and the definition must serve the customer, and that's why we can talk about digital well-being, right? And also again being intentional about why we want our customers to engage, right? And what meaningful value are they getting, right? Otherwise, and it's not just the sake of trying to get eyeballs. But yeah,
and I just wanted to add, Mr. Obi, I guess I think the final goal of user adoption should be these users should become advocates of the product. Like they should tell their friends and family about the product. I imagine that to be the final stage of user adoption.
Sure. Yeah. That's really that's really an important stage where a user can confidently refer your product to another person, right? And it's even one of those things that people have to measure, right? Like you might want to measure on your product, you might want to measure your referral success rates. How are people willing? You see on some products where you're trying to do reviews, are you willing to, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you willing to? Would you refer this product to another person, right? So something like that, and that's why product these days have referral codes and referral links that you can share to another user. Yeah.
But thanks. Yeah, please let's just push for another minute or two. The next slide so that we can wrap up. Thanks.
Sorry, there's a little typo here on strategies, but anyways, so strategies for user adoption, right? You need to be able to establish smart goals. Smart goals. You need to be able to establish a goal that is smart, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, right? You need to provide clear product education, right? Product education is really, really important, especially when you are playing in the sector that is not so familiar. Say, for example, you're building a product that's in the Web3 space or crypto space, right? Or a lot of people are not so clear on how this product, or even fintech space, right? Especially when you're trying to, provide inclusion to your financial services, right? You need to be able to provide clear product education. The UX copies needs to be really, really clear to the user, right? Your error messages, your product education needs from down to your adverts to your copies on your flyers, on your ads. Everything needs to be really clear. You have a customer success team, like one of us said the other time. Your customer success team needs to be on point, right? They need to be able to respond. There are customers, a lot of number of customer success teams that they don't even understand the product offerings. They've not even used the product. Like, they've not really explored the product. So you need to have a good customer success team. Reduce your onboarding friction, right? Reduce your onboarding friction as much as possible, and continuously monitor, measure, and optimize your product. So this is just more like just like a general graph. So maybe this is like September cohort. We have 1,000 users, right? 450 of that 1,000 users have been exposed to the product. So that's like 45%. 300 out of that 450 is the activated users. That's about a 67%. Now, out of that 300, we have 50 people out of 300 have used the product, 60%, and then used again 45 out of that 50. So this is just like a quick chart on how the user adoption funnel works over a period of time. Thank you so much. My name is Anayo Obiajulu. You can follow me on Twitter at Anayo Obiajulu, on LinkedIn. Just connect with me, and let's talk business, let's talk startups, let's talk how to scale product, let's talk design. Yeah, thank you. Have any questions? I think we answered questions already. Yeah. Let me
Yeah,
see.
sure. Yeah, thanks a lot, Obiajulu. Comment from Henry Bundi, great presentation. The numbers can grow and graphs can get dizzy sometimes. Any insights for monitoring for anomalies in user data?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, I don't fully understand the question. I don't know if someone can make sense out of it.
Okay, the numbers can grow and graphs. I didn't get that. Let me see.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'll bring it back. Yeah. So
I think a general comment on that with data, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying in terms of data getting overwhelming. I think
Yeah.
to know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
So, and I think it speaks very well to what Obi has been talking to say, if you know that users who have, for instance, logged in and carried out a specific transaction, are what you consider an active user. If that's what you're going to look for in the data, right? You're not just going to look at a whole lot of data and see a whole lot of activity. You're going to look for specific things. And I think that's just a general comment around that. You need to know what you're looking for. Otherwise, yeah, you do get overwhelmed. Even with simple reporting, Google Analytics, you'll just get overwhelmed. It's like, clearly there's a lot going on. That's nice. Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. I think also being intentional about what we measure, is also great, to remove all the noise. Because there's a lot of stuff, and sometimes I think that there's certain insights that you want to derive, but if you didn't clearly define your UX metrics, then you might only rely on whatever stuff is available there. But if you want to be intentional about specific actions that a customer takes, right? And you don't just need to look at page depth, bounce rates, time spent, etc. Right? Because you still need to derive meaning, right? Because some of the of those numbers might not necessarily, help you to make an informed,
decision.
Data-driven decision.
True.
Yeah.
And that's why these days there are a lot of people that are going into like product analytics these days. It's not like a niche, people are now going to how they can, interpret data, right, and use it to make data-driven decisions in products. And it's not just every designer that has that skill to be able to, be able to interpret data from a product and then use it to make an informed decision that will lead to, the business scaling up and all of that.
Sure. Yeah. So now, is there anything that you guys want to say before I close? Any few words?
I don't know what's on my end.
Yeah, I think the last thing that I would like to probably add to the conversation to me was, around this thing of in terms of activation and exposure, etc. We're talking about notifications and sending emails and so on. I think generally, and we kind of heading in this direction in our organization, in our company as well, where instead of just sending emails out to everybody or sending one notification or one type of notification to everybody,
Everybody.
start applying some UX or some user-centered design to that thing, and also an experimental approach to it. So let's say you have 100 users on your mailing list, right? You probably want to send out tranches of emails to the first 10 or the first 20 or the next 20, and keep optimizing, and maybe do some A/B testing with your comms to see which one actually results in activation, right? And by the time you get to the point where you know which one is resulting in the most activation, then you send to the rest of the 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I like the strategy.
Yeah, and also to add to that, there's something called OptiChannel, which is really about understanding how your customers interact with you and delivering the right message to the right customer at the right platform. And that will also help to minimize the noise, and also to to deliver a meaningful message that will help you to engage with the relevant customers. Yeah. So guys, yeah, no, thanks a lot. Thanks. This was a lovely and a presentation, Obiajulu, and I think there's a lot to reflect on in terms of how we do things. And I think there are two things for me, well, probably a bit more, but I'll mention two. There is the app adoption, which is something that we tend to focus on. And then there's also feature adoption, right? So how do we get specific, right? Because sometimes if trying to optimize an adoption of a feature will definitely indirectly help you, to for your customers to adopt the app, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, it was nice, to have you. Thanks, Obiajulu. Thanks, Kath, Obakeng, and Mpumelelo. Yeah, so Obakeng, he's a junior in the space, and I want to bring some junior designers and people that want to tap into the space like Kath. And no input is meaningless. It's great to have people, a diverse audience from different backgrounds, because it's really about understanding people from different perspectives. So yeah, thanks a lot for the contribution, and yeah, I hope to see you guys next week on Thursday. We've got an awesome presentation that's lined up by Pablo from London in the UK. She'll be talking about value sensitive design. Yeah, can't wait for that as well. And yeah, thanks a lot, Obiajulu. Hope to see you again. And definitely, we need to make a plan to have another topic for you next year.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll be glad
So
to join.
yeah, and please, just follow our channel on YouTube, and also follow the business page on LinkedIn. That helps us to be recommended by LinkedIn, to the broader, design community. Yeah, so please, share the content, like the content, invite other designers into the space.
Strategy for adoption.
Yeah, so guys, this is a bigger cause, right? The main aim is for us to get, Africa better, right? To understand Africa deeply. I want to know, the awesome, startups, the awesome products that are being built, in Africa. If I need to research and understand a particular, startup, I want to be able to reach to Obiajulu. I want to be able to reach to, James David, Martin Changa, Henry, guys from, from Kenya, etc. right? I want us to be able to tap into the network and make use of it. And I also want us to help each other. You know, there are people who are looking for job opportunities. You know, there are people who want to transition into, into the design space. You know, how do we help each other to grow as a community, right? So that, you know, we can welcome those who are new into the space, and also we can, coach and help those who want to grow into the space, and also, you know, help us, you know, to actually get value from this African design community. So guys, yeah, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I hope to
Yeah.
see you.
I've
thanks.
certainly learnt a lot today, so thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Yes,
Cool, guys.
that's all. Fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.